The DOJ Inspector General's report on the FBI's corrupt handling of the Clinton email case and the FBI's conduct leading up to an election is imminent? We'll see. Now, also breaking tonight, liberal hypocrisy. It just knows no bounds. Gun-grabbing Democrats show up at anti-Second Amendment student protests around the country. They have armed security. You can't make this up. We have the video evidence tonight. Now, this comes as the House overwhelmingly passed a new school safety bill. So it's time to protect our kids in school the same way Democrats protect themselves. And also brand new tonight, the acting director of ICE is fiercely responding to Nancy Pelosi, who called federal immigration authorities cowardly. And families whose loved ones were killed by criminal illegal immigrants, they are demanding that the DOJ prosecute this liberal mayor of Oakland, California. And also tonight, liberals are racing to attack the first female CIA director nominee. Why? She was too tough on terrorists. What they won't tell you is that Gina Haspel saved American lives. I have a special message. Tell your Republican congressmen and senators to watch. They don't want to miss that. And we have all of that new information in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight we start with a bombshell development about former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Fox News tonight reporting that the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is reviewing a recommendation from the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility to give McCabe the axe. And sources are telling Fox News that firing McCabe before Friday, get this, would mean he would lose his taxpayer-funded pension. He's set to retire on Sunday. Something explosive has gone on here. Now, this new development is raising speculation that the DOJ's Inspector General's report about the FBI's phony Clinton email investigation where the fix was in, that could be released soon. And Fox News has learned that the Inspector General's investigation has discovered that McCabe was not forthcoming about his approval for an FBI official to talk to reporters about the Bureau's investigation into the Clinton Foundation. And according to reports, this scandal is what forced McCabe to be removed from that position and placed on leave. And according to a Wall Street Journal report from earlier this year, McCabe waited an entire month to inform Congress. Remember those thousands of Uma Abedin emails that were found on Anthony Weiner's laptop? Why would he wait? Then, of course, there's the text message from the Trump-hating FBI lovers, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, remember, they've mentioned talking to Andy. We think that's Andrew McCabe about that insurance policy. God forbid if Donald Trump won the election. And by the way, you have McCabe's wife, Jill. She took over $700,000 in political contributions from Hillary Clinton's ally, Terry McAuliffe, and another Democratic group for a failed Virginia state Senate run, an obscene amount of money. So when it comes to firing Andrew McCabe, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, should not be contemplating a decision here because the answer is obvious and the facts are staring Sessions right in the face. McCabe is corrupt, and he is as crooked as they come. He is one of those deep state actors that we have been telling you about, and he needs to be held accountable. And firing McCabe, by the way, should only be a start. We know for a fact James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, other top FBI officials put the fix in, and they ignored overwhelming, incontrovertible evidence that Hillary Clinton, in fact, committed multiple felonies. Clinton should have been prosecuted. She never should have made it to November of 2016. It was an open and shut case. The evidence was all there. It didn't happen. The fix was in. It was rigged. And that's why McCabe, Comey, Strzok, Page, and all the other top FBI officials that played a hand in the sham of an investigation into Clinton, they should be terrified tonight about this DOJ Inspector General report that we expect to come out any day now. Now, criminal referrals should also be made to the DOJ. And if you believe in equal justice under the law, all of these deep state officials, they all need to be prosecuted. All right, also brand new tonight. Liberal hypocrisy reaches a stunning new level. Take a look at this video. There he is, Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders, working his way through an anti-Second Amendment rally on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. But notice, he's surrounded by armed security guys. Now, Bernie Sanders was not alone. We have other gun-grabbing liberal politicians. They all showed up to speak out against your Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms and also predictably attack the NRA. Take a look.
Our Congressional Solidarity Walk-Up is here to say enough is enough. We need a vote now. We need a vote now. We need a vote now.
and it's common sense that we should get the assault rifles and the banana clips off the streets.
The NRA has made me public enemy #1, and I'm proud of it. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. We're gonna win.
I want to know, are you prepared to do whatever it takes to beat the gun lobby?
Are we going to ban assault weapons? Are we going to have universal background checks?
Unbelievable. And then there's the anti-Second Amendment crusader, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who actually participated in a die-in in a protest in New York City. Take a look. Yeah, he has tons of security also. Just shameless hypocrites. They stand in front of crowds of people, no fear about their own personal safety because they are surrounded by armed security, but they would deny those same protections to America's school children. Does that make any sense? By the way, here's a quick question. If being protected by armed police officers is good for these politicians, shouldn't it be good for our children in America's schools? Pretty simple answer, right? And anyway, have you noticed that congressional Democrats, they are always the champions of gun-free zones, except places where they work. There's tons of security at the Capitol. And the same goes for Hollywood liberals. Now, those pompous award ceremonies have more security than Fort Knox. But in their minds, it's outrageous for schools to take the same precautions that they have. You want to protect America's schools and our kids. The solutions are obvious. I have highlighted them on this show. You need comprehensive threat security assessments. You need control points of entry. You need to secure the perimeters. You need school IDs, metal detectors, and, yes, concealed carry, armed, highly trained, retired former police and military. Now, by the way, the House did take a step forward today. They overwhelmingly passed a school safety bill that awards grant money to states to help train teachers and students and law enforcement officials to stop the violence in schools. It's a good start, but it's not good enough. America's schools, our kids, deserve the same security that liberals demand for themselves. All right, also tonight, the acting director of ICE slamming Nancy Pelosi for daring, if you can believe it, to call federal immigration authorities that risk their lives every single day to keep this country safe. Nancy called them cowardly. Watch this.
Not only did she say they were cowardly, she said that, ICE was terrorizing immigrant communities. First of all, you're talking about law enforcement officers. These are men and women that put their lives on the line for this country every day. They strap a gun to their hip and leave the safety and security of their homes to defend this nation. So how dare you call them cowardly? And to say that we're terrorizing immigrant communities, the people we arrested during these California operations, looting the city of its acts with a juvenile, assault with deadly weapons, murder, these people were terrorizing immigrant communities. ICE went in there and removed these people from the communities.
So liberals like Nancy Pelosi, they're making it clear they have no problem putting American lives in danger to protect criminal illegal immigrants. And I'm not talking about DACA. I'm not talking about dreamers or people that have benefited from chain migration or the visa lottery. But these liberals, like the Oakland, California mayor liberal, what's her name, Libby Schaaf, they're aiding and abetting criminal illegal immigrants, those that have caused real harm to real American citizens and real American families. So it's hard to imagine how anyone could defend doing this. But of course, the left is, and we watch it every day. And that's why you have angel parents. Those are people whose children were killed by illegal immigrants. They are now rightly demanding that Mayor Schaaf face prosecution for obstruction of justice, protecting criminals, aiding and abetting people that shouldn't be in the country in the first place, and then commit other crimes. And liberals like to pretend that illegal immigrants don't commit crimes, but they're lying when they say that. And sadly, these angel parents are needlessly suffering all because of this. It's a national disgrace. It can be stopped. And if it happens again, those people protecting them, they are the ones to blame. Now, also tonight, liberals are channeling their rage to attack a brand new target. See the woman on the screen there. Democrats are now threatening to block the nomination of Gina Haspel to be the first female CIA director. Now, here's why. Haspel played a very key role in overseeing the enhanced interrogation techniques that were used at CIA black sites against top-level al-Qaeda terrorists. Of course, this is after 9/11. 3,000 Americans were killed. And the left can feign all the moral outrage they want, play all the politics they want, but facts are not on their side. The CIA, other top officials like Leon Panetta, who worked in the Obama administration, have said, and we'll show you this later tonight, that enhanced interrogation techniques, they worked. And it led to finding and killing Osama bin Laden. Without them, he probably would still be alive today. And people like Haspel literally saved American lives. In that sense, she's a patriot. Democrats should not put partisan, petty politics ahead of your national security. Now, of course, we would have preferred not to have been attacked on 9/11, but sadly, we all know evil does exist. Evil must be defeated. Radical Islamists came here. All right, finally tonight, I have a message to congressional Republicans after last night's special election in the 18th District of Pennsylvania. GOP members of Congress, take a good, long look in the mirror, because that could be your future. And if it happens, you'll have nobody to blame but yourselves. Now, you can put aside the fact that this was an interesting case because the Democrat, Conor Lamb, well, he pretended to be pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and even pro-Trump and anti-Pelosi. So he was kind of acting like a Republican. And he's quickly going to fall in line with whatever Nancy Pelosi tells him to do. Watch and see. But what happened last night should serve as a warning to all Republicans. You want to be successful in 2018, there's a simple solution. Keep all of the promises you make in campaign years. It's really that simple. That's the best politics. Make the country safer. Give us a great economy. Go back to your district, look your voters in the eye, and tell them that you did what you said you were going to do. Now, you've already passed tax cuts. Check. Good job. But you also promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, and you also, most of you, promised to build the wall. So now is your opportunity. It's March. You have until November to follow through, show some backbone, show some vision, mean what you say what you mean, finish the job on Obamacare, and start building the wall. Now, if you do that, my guess is, I've only been at this 30 years, voters are going to reward you. And if you don't do it, they probably won't. All right, a lot of news tonight. We'll get to all of it. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. All right, I want us to go back. I want to start with Andrew McCabe. As of Sunday, he would receive a government pension for the rest of his life. Now, if he's fired before Sunday,
right,
that pension is gone.
Because the rules are quite clear. If you lie, you're fired. And if you're fired, you should not get a pension. You know, the story of Andrew McCabe actually proves the old Richard Nixon adage, it's always the cover-up and not the crime. Apparently, the Inspector General has determined that McCabe was covering up and lying about his conversations about giving permission to talk to reporters about the Hillary Clinton case. But he's got bigger problems than that. He could be charged for lying. It's a crime, making a false statement in an investigation. But this is the guy who signed off on the FISA warrant knowing that what he was doing was against the law. It's 6 different felonies. This is the guy who cleared Hillary Clinton, along with others at the FBI, in the face of compelling evidence she committed crimes. And this is the guy, along with others, who appears to have sanitized the so-called exoneration statement, which is obstruction of justice. So losing his pension, that's the least of Andrew McCabe's worries right now.
All right, Sarah Carter, let's go to you.
Well, I agree with Greg on this. You know, I think that there's a number of things that we could look at, Sean. I mean, all we know right now is what we're hearing in reports and what very few sources are saying about what the IG has to say. The Office of Professional Responsibility would not send this recommendation if they did not feel there was something so strong, something so poignant that they would have to ask for McCabe's firing, which I believe is imminent and which I believe Sessions will have no other choice but to do this week.
What else are we hearing? Because it's not just McCabe. Then you've got the text messages between the lovebirds, Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. What do we know about that? How does Loretta Lynch get away with this? And where's Jim Comey? Because Comey, along with others, put the fix in. Even though he said he didn't make up his mind until he had interviewed, or really Peter Strzok interviewed Hillary Clinton, but they were writing the exoneration months earlier. Where's Comey in all of this as he prepares for his big book tour?
Oh, I think Comey certainly is going to have to prepare himself for the IG report, because the IG report isn't just going to focus on McCabe. McCabe was a part of that, but it's focused on the entire FBI, the Bureau, the higher echelon of the apparatus, and how they handled the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of that private server to send classified information, and the fact that it was shut down. So we're only seeing a narrow portion of this. Once the IG report comes out, I'm sure there'll be other recommendations made. I'm certain that Comey is going to be a part of that IG report. Lisa Page, Peter Strzok will also be a part of that IG report.
Hasn't this been going on for 14 months? And I was told there are 500 plus people, many former prosecutors, many lawyers that have been working on this.
Yes, I mean, this is huge. This is very extensive. And remember, it's not just the IG. There is a prosecutor looking at the specifics right now. So that means that the IG found something very significant, something that he's going to follow up on. And another thing, Sean, the story that I wrote about this week, remember Judicial Watch and former FBI Special Agent Jeff Danik have sued the FBI for all of McCabe's text messages, for all of his emails at the Bureau, because they believe that will show a timeline where we will be able to see how they either slow-rolled the investigation into Hillary and his full involvement in the Hillary Clinton investigation, and they have refused to give that up.
Where do you see this going, Greg? And where do you see who's in legal jeopardy here?
A lot of people are in jeopardy, and the IG report may reveal a lot. It's no wonder that it took the Inspector General Horowitz so long, because the acts of corruption and illegality here were so pervasive and involved so many different people at the FBI and the Department of Justice in protecting Hillary Clinton and conjuring a fraudulent investigation of Donald Trump under the guise of counterintelligence that it was difficult to unravel it and gather all of the evidence.
So we have the report from the House Intel Committee. No evidence of Trump-Russia collusion.
Right.
I can read it. I've read it on the air multiple times. No evidence. But in the process of investigating this, what did we learn? Well, we learned the fix was in on Hillary Clinton, and we have evidence to prove it. Sure. We know the people involved in it. We didn't mention Loretta Lynch either. Then we also find out after a year that it was Hillary and the DNC that she controlled financially that are responsible for paying for this phony Russian dossier. Okay, and then the lies told to the FISA court. And I've got to think, if I'm Robert Mueller and I'm supposed to be looking at Trump-Russia collusion, well, how do you get to ignore Hillary's collusion? How do you get to ignore that dossier?
Yeah, where was Comey? Where was Andrew McCabe? Where's Loretta Lynch when all of this was happening? Why didn't they say, hey, wait a minute, stop right here. We cannot use an unverified document to surveil an American citizen, because the law says you have to verify it first. The law, by the way, also says we can't hide the critical information that was paid for by Hillary Clinton. But they went ahead and they did it anyway.
What about these reports tonight, Sarah? What are you hearing that possible Trump administration changes of McMaster and at the VA and at the chief of staff and the attorney general? Go ahead.
Look, I think the President Trump sent a very clear message with, and I know this from talking to sources, with the firing of Rex Tillerson. He's sending a message across the board to everyone, even allies overseas. He's saying, you either work with me, but if you're working against me behind my back, I know this. And if you're not going to work with me on this, then we're going to get rid of you. And if you're not doing your job, then we're taking you out of your office.
Politically speaking, won't the country explode if Jeff Sessions is out? I mean, look, I understand the president's frustration about the recusal. I don't believe Jeff Sessions should, if he knew he was going to recuse himself, he never should have taken the position. Because without that recusal, none of this happens.
He betrayed the president. He knew when he was sworn in he was going to recuse himself, because he testified that the very next day he put the recusal in motion. He never told the president about that. And by the way, he cited the regulation of his recusal.
What are the political?
He cited the wrong law. It didn't apply to his recusal.
That's true, but I think he was being advised badly at that time.
Yeah, by
and
Obama's holdovers.
That's correct.
Who in the world would believe them?
What about the political fallout before we have to move on here in a second? What about the political fallout, Sarah, if he did that?
Well, you know, I don't know if we'd see massive political fallout here. I think he would definitely feel it from Republicans who support Sessions, who don't want to see him removed. But look, I think Sessions is probably the least of it right now, because I think what we're hearing from Sessions and from the Attorney General is that there is things in motion at the DOJ taking place right now that they can't discuss publicly, because remember, we won't even know if there's a grand jury convening on some of this. That is very private. But he did say there was a prosecutor looking into this. I think other people should be more worried. I think the head of the Veterans Administration, Shulkin, should be very concerned. There are a lot of people I've spoken with that said, look, he's not doing his job. He doesn't know how to be a leader. He has an armed guard outside the door. People can't access him. What's going on here? So I think there's other people that need to be very worried right now.
Jeff Sessions, I'm sure, you know, is a very nice man. I don't know him personally, but he has got to be the most feckless and incapable.
But what about what we're learning? There is in Arkansas a Clinton Foundation investigation. We learned he didn't recuse himself from Uranium One. We're told that he believes the process is IG, then DOJ, then special counsel. You don't buy it?
I think he's naive and gullible. And he is the puppet, and Rod Rosenstein is the puppeteer.
That's scary.
Well, I think we should wait. I think we should wait and see if he actually fires McCabe based on a recommendation by the FBI.
Well, that'll be the first test, but we need the special counsel. At this point, you know, what happened with FISA abuses, everything else. You guys have been great.
Absolutely.
Thank you both. Now, President Trump, only moments ago, he arrived at the White House following his visit to St. Louis. Another major story we are following tonight, almost immediately after the president announced that he was nominating Gina Haspel to be the first woman to run the CIA. Well, some people on the left in the media were just waiting to attack, and wait till you hear the reason why. Take a look at this.
There is controversy in her past. She was involved with the torture programs after September 11th, and then involved with destroying videotapes of the matter also. That might be something that could be problematic.
Gina Haspel has a real history with enhanced interrogation in the CIA.
There's a lot of people raising questions, including John McCain today, about the fact that in 2002 she ran a so-called black site, CIA prison in Thailand, where 2 terrorism suspects were tortured, and she also reportedly, her name was on a cable ordering the destruction of tapes, but you support her.
I do.
She clearly presided over a massive illegal operation that violated both U.S. law and international law. I'm sure those orders came down from above her, but that is no excuse.
Typical left-wing attacks about Haspel. Now, Jose Rodriguez, remember him? He was the former head of the CIA National Clandestine Service. He praised the intelligence that was gained from these black sites like the ones that Haspel ran. Here's what Rodriguez told me in 2014. This is crucial.
Those of us who read the intelligence coming out of our black sites every morning and who acted on that intelligence know the value, and basically it led to the destruction of the organization.
Led to the destruction of the organization. Without interrogation techniques, there is no getting Osama bin Laden. She saved American lives. I wish the world wasn't evil. Sadly, the world's evil. Here with reaction, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Fox News National Security Strategist Sebastian Gorka, Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry. By the way, Ed, this is like a full-time gig for you, replacing Shannon Bream. What's up with that?
Well, she's on vacation this week. It's short-term.
I'm just teasing. All right, let's start with the news with you. This is a woman, as I see it. Now, they're going to oppose the first woman ever nominated to be the CIA director, and they're saying she's too tough on terror? That she's too tough on terrorists? That saved American lives? Jose Rodriguez witnessed the waterboarding, and he knows the information extracted.
Sean, this is almost tailor-made for the Trump White House. If they were to design a strategy, it would be they could sit around the table and say, if only the Democrats would accuse our CIA nominee of being too tough on terrorists, that we're just too tough on trying to take out al-Qaeda and ISIS, that would be exactly what they would like to design, and that's what the Democrats are doing. And on top of that, as you say, she'd be the first woman to lead the CIA. That is a wonderful achievement if she's confirmed, and yet you have Democrats Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein suggesting she may not get the job. Here's the bottom line. The clips you played, there are legitimate questions to be raised about those techniques. There was a great debate, as you remember better than anyone, at the end of the Bush administration, at the beginning of the Obama administration, about all of this. But the problem is, in almost every one of those clips, the Democratic senators and various journalists are talking about the allegations that may have broken the law, but not a one of them talked about the actual intelligence, the actionable intelligence gotten from that to wipe out terrorists. That's the other side.
And Jose Rodriguez couldn't be more clear to me, Dr. Gorka. If they didn't use these techniques against KSM, that led to the Courier, that led to bin Laden, that led to us killing bin Laden. Now, I wish the world wasn't full of evil, radical Islamic terrorists that think they're doing God's will by killing innocent people. But they killed 3,000 Americans, Dr. Gorka. She, to me, is a hero.
Look, that's why I wrote the book Defeating Jihad, because we are at war with evil. Look, the left just wants to attack a female appointee of a Republican president. They couldn't care less about whether we tortured people or not. These are all politicians who were briefed. You've told the world they were briefed behind closed doors. They had no issue with the black sites, with the enhanced interrogation techniques, but now they do. Let's go back in time, Sean. The last administration, run by a guy called Obama, who had a female national security advisor, they weren't just involved in, things that were dubious when it comes to enhanced interrogation. This was an administration that had, for the president, something called the threat disposition matrix, a big iPad on which he would decide which terrorists we're going to kill today, including more than one American citizen abroad. So they want to get high and mighty about black sites when their president and then female national security advisor was killing Americans without due process.
Dr. Gorka, think of the mindset. Bill Clinton, $3 billion, energy to North Korea. And this is a good deal for the American people. They're not going to get nukes. They got nukes. I can't even fathom what Obama was thinking, $150 billion in the hands of Iranian mullahs chanting death to America. And then the same mindset, no, we can't dunk people that we know are terrorists, that have information about killing Americans, their head in a tank, and make them feel like they're drowning. We better build them soccer fields and make sure we cater to their dietary needs. I don't understand the mindset. Help me out. Maybe I'm missing something.
Let's look at the reality. A transit cop in D.C. was charged and prosecuted and put in federal prison because he thought he was wiring $500 to ISIS. It was actually an FBI contact, a covert asset, $500, and he goes to jail for material support to terrorism. The Obama administration gives $150 billion to Iran.
I can't even comprehend how stupid that is. Ed Henry, other news in Washington tonight.
Yeah, well, the other big story, of course, is the House passing this bill to deal with school safety, about $50 billion. What it's about is training teachers, training school officials to deal with these threats, more money for mental health. It's interesting, I think, the bottom line, you have Democrats tonight complaining there are no gun control measures in there. But let's remember, it started out in the immediate aftermath. It's 1 month today since the Parkland, Florida shooting and that terrible tragedy. It started out in the immediate hours. This is all about the NRA. It's all about gun control. As we got more facts about how the police didn't respond, quick enough, some of them were afraid to go in. All of those questions about the FBI not following up on tips. It shifted from gun control to school safety, and so the House has passed it. We still need to see the Senate pass it.
What a display today to watch all these politicians with their armed guards showing solidarity for students wanting to get rid of weapons. All right, thank you both. Great report. Now, when we come back, yes, he's back, the great one. Mark Levin was going to weigh in on, well, shiftless Adam Schiff. Straight ahead. Now, the GOP and the House Intel Investigation Committee, that Intel investigation is over. It concluded there is zero evidence of Trump-Russia collusion after 14 months. But that is not stopping Democratic, hack Congressman Adam Schiff from continuing to push his ever-changing narrative, trying to desperately prove that there's Trump-Russia collusion after 14 long months. And even he admitted 2 weeks ago, no evidence. Take a look.
What do you got hard?
Well, Chris, unfortunately, I can't go into the evidence that's being presented to the committee.
Do you have something hard that you can't reveal?
I can't reveal that, Chris. Of course, there's one thing to say there's evidence. There's another thing to say we can prove this or prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, or there's enough evidence to bring to a grand jury for purposes of a criminal indictment. I don't think we can say anything definitively at this point. We are still at the very early stage of the investigation.
We haven't seen an actual proof of cooperation and collusion. So what am I missing here?
Well, I think you have to look at the pattern and the chronology. The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help. And that is pretty damning.
Last March, you said you had more than circumstantial evidence of treasonous collusion with Russia. What specifically were you referring to? And please be specific, because if it's true, I do believe Americans have the right to know a year later what that is.
Well, I've certainly said that there's ample evidence of collusion. I've never used the word treason. Only Steve Bannon has used that word. But if you look at the facts that are already in the public domain, they're pretty damning. The American people need to know whether the Russians still have something they can hold over the president's head, the president of the United States. So our work is far from done. I can certainly say with confidence that there is significant evidence of collusion between the campaign and Russia.
It's 14 months. What is it? All right, here with the answer. The host of CRTV's Levin TV and the host of the #1 show 3 weekends in a row in his time slot. Very proud of my buddy, the great one, Mark Levin. Thank me. How am I? Look, this guy has been lying to this country for well over a year, Mark. Meghan McCain destroyed him. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. Mr. Schiff is a shill for the Russian government. And I'm going to tell you why it is Schiff who's a propagandist for the Russian government, despite his spinning on all these left-wing TV shows. He put out a list of 30 more interviews he wants to do, even though the Republicans on the committee said there's no collusion. And he mentions a long list. Reince Priebus, Stephen Miller, K.T. McFarland, Sean Spicer, Kellyanne Conway, bunch of consultants, people with the Trump Organization, some of Trump's lawyers, somebody that runs a group, Christian rights activists. Of course, he wants Donald Trump Jr. to kick around. He wants Jared Kushner to kick around, family members, on and on and on. Let me tell you who he doesn't want. Let me tell you who this shill for Russia doesn't want. He doesn't want Hillary Clinton. He didn't say we should subpoena Hillary Clinton, even though it was the Hillary Clinton campaign that laundered money through a law firm in this Fusion GPS. To do what? To corroborate and collude with the Russians with their phony dossier. He didn't ask for a single Hillary Clinton campaign official. Why is that, Mr. Schiff, since we know they colluded? He didn't ask for the former head of the DNC. I don't know if that was Wasserman Schultz or Donna Brazil. He doesn't want to subpoena them and question them. Where did their money come from? That money that they laundered through that law firm to Fusion GPS to the Russians. That's something he doesn't want to talk about. I've got more. Barack Obama. How can it possibly be that the President of the United States, under whom all this occurred, Donald Trump was a candidate. Donald Trump was a victim. His family was victimized. Barack Obama was President of the United States when the Russians were interfering with our election. Don't we, the American people, want to hear from Barack Obama in an open committee hearing? Well, Mr. Shill for the Russians, Schiff, he doesn't. What about Loretta Lynch and her role on the FISA warrants as Attorney General? She's not on his list. Neither are other senior Justice Department officials in the Obama administration. What about these FISA court judges who even now know as a matter of fact that what was presented to them to issue a warrant against an American citizen was materially false because it omitted everything I just told you about the dossier. Now, what else isn't Mr. Schiff interested in? He's not interested in Uranium One. He doesn't make a single request for a witness or a subpoena. 20% of America's uranium is now controlled by Vladimir Putin because Schiff is a shill for Putin, in my view. What else doesn't he want? He doesn't want to hear Bill Clinton testify, who got money from the Russians to give speeches around the same time. He doesn't want anyone from the Clinton Foundation to testify, any of the senior officials. That foundation made a fortune off the Russians. Who else doesn't he want to testify? He doesn't want senior lawyers at this law firm, Perkins Coie, that keeps popping up, through which money was laundered to Fusion GPS, and then to the British ex-spy, and then to the Russians to put this dossier together. He doesn't want her, and he doesn't want Susan Rice back. Now, why doesn't he want Susan Rice back? There's a new book out that says Susan Rice objected to the cybersecurity personnel in the White House who said, hey, Susan, the Russians are interfering with our election. And you know what she told them? Stand down. Shouldn't Susan get another invitation with a subpoena to testify before the committee? Apparently not, because Mr. Schiff is a shill. Who else? What about Ben Rhodes, the deputy director of the National Security Council? Doesn't Mr. Schiff want to know what the Obama National Security Council knew about Russian interference in our government? No, he doesn't mention her at all. Now, let me tell you something. Mr. Schiff is not interested in the abuses of the FISA application process. He's not interested in what the FISA court did. He's not interested in the fact that American citizens were spied on and their names were unmasked. He doesn't ask for any witnesses related to that. None whatsoever. I will tell you this, Mr. Schiff, you're a leaker.
Let me
you
ask you
sit on the House Intelligence Committee, and because you're on that committee, it ought to be called the House Stupid Committee. You are the ranking Democrat on that committee, and you say you didn't leak. I have a challenge for you, Mr. Schiff. Why don't you take a lie detector test? Why don't you take a lie detector test so the American people can be sure that you, all over TV, ubiquitous, you might as well be on airport radar and sonograms. You're everywhere, sir. And you tell us you don't leak? Okay, take a lie detector test, because I believe you do. Comey leaked, FBI director. Deputy FBI Director McCabe, leaker. James Clapper, according to a new book, National Intelligence Director, leaker. According to their own texts, Mr. Stroke, head of counterintelligence, leaker. His girlfriend Paige, leaker. This has been a sham from day one. Why the hell would the Russians want Donald Trump as president of the United States? You think they like him now? When under Hillary Clinton and John Kerry and under Barack Obama, they got Crimea, they got part of the Ukraine, they got a big chunk of Syria, they got 20% of our uranium. Why the hell would Vladimir Putin want Donald Trump as president of the United States when he promised to beef up the United States military and do all the things necessary to secure this nation?
I couldn't say it any better. Now, the next logical point. I want to ask you about Robert Mueller. You're right on every point you just made. The fix was in the primary. That's Democrats. They can deal with their own party. The fix we know was in on the Clinton email investigation. We'll learn more in the IG report. She tried to fix the general election. They paid for Russian and Russian government lies and propaganda. Then you mentioned the FISA court issue. They lied to FISA judges and all that you just said. Why is it Robert Mueller hasn't lifted a finger to go into any of these issues? None of those people have been brought in. And what does it say about our justice system?
I'll tell you why. Mr. Mueller, I know you watch these programs, and I believe you and your Democrat prosecutors are leakers, too. Mr. Mueller, I have a question for you. You've asked repeatedly, apparently, the Deputy Attorney General, who's the acting Attorney General in this case, Rod Rosenstein, to expand your authority, to chase down issues that have nothing to do with Russian collusion. Now you're running around in the Middle East. Now you're running around over here. Now you're running around over there. Mr. Mueller, why haven't you asked Mr. Rosenstein, your friend, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, to expand your investigation to include the Hillary campaign? Why haven't you asked Mr. Rosenstein to expand your investigation to look into the Russian apparatchiks who gave information to a foreign ex-British spy who was paid through a laundered process by the Hillary Clinton campaign in the DNC, Mr. Clouseau? How come you don't look at that? How come you haven't looked at the abuse and violations by your friend, Mr. Comey, and the former Attorney General of the United States of the FISA court? I'll tell you why. Because this guy's a hitman. This guy who got the whole anthrax investigation wrong and still hasn't apologized to the man he was chasing and ruined for 5 years, this man is out to get the president. That's why.
Inspector Clouseau, best line of the night. Great one. Good to see you, my friend. Sunday nights, Life, Liberty, the great one. Levin, congrats, #1 in the ratings 3 weekends in a row. When we come back, Democrats, are they finally over Hillary Clinton? Jesse Waters and Jessica Tarlov. We'll find out whose world it is. Straight ahead, you get to vote. All right, over the weekend, Hillary Clinton bashed millions of us irredeemable deplorables during a speech abroad. This is what she thinks of people in America. This is just so impressive.
We don't do well with married white women. And part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should. His whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You know, you didn't like black people getting rights. You don't like women, getting jobs. You don't want to, see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Whatever your problem is, I'm going to solve it.
And it's not just Republicans taking issue with her despicable remarks. According to a report in The Hill, many Democrats are now calling Clinton's continued remarks harmful to the party. Joining us now, the co-host of The Five and the host of Waters' World, Jesse Waters. It's his world we live in. And
you went early.
Although, yeah, and Jessica Tarlov. All right, do it together. Ready? Okay. All right, this is beautiful.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. These bitter people that cling to their God, guns, Bibles, religion, irredeemable deplorables. Oh, and the only women in the United States, they voted the way their husbands, sons, and bosses told them to vote, and they're racist.
Just the white women, yeah.
Just the white women, sorry. They listened to their bosses, husbands, and sons. What century is this woman living in?
Let's talk about Farrakhan. I'd actually
I like it.
No,
wait a minute. I think it's going to be Jessica's world tonight. We can't beat that.
We can give Mark Levin back an extra 5 minutes.
He needs it. Yeah. I wanted to hear more.
No, it's an extremely unhelpful comment to make, obviously. And there are a number of Dems
Do you believe
states.
white women in America vote because their husbands, bosses, and sons tell them how to vote, Jesse?
Well, listen, husbands cannot control their wives. I mean, if they could, Bill Clinton would have convinced Hillary to campaign in Wisconsin. And this whole racism thing, rural America is racist. How did Obama win Iowa twice? It doesn't make sense. She insults women. She insults everybody that doesn't live in a city. She's a deplorable candidate. But I want to see crooked Hillary 2020. I don't want to shut her up. I think it's sexist for the Democrats to want to shut Hillary up. Let her keep talking. She's the gift that keeps on giving, Jessica.
Listen, there's no way to defend those comments. They don't make a lot of inherent sense. White women tend to vote that way because they're Republicans,
did you vote for that woman for president?
Oh, I did, and I do it again tomorrow. I think
even after that.
Oh, well, I don't agree with that.
I'm a little bit worried. I was worried, and I'm serious now. I mean, I saw her fall.
Don't do that.
Slip and fall. No, I'm serious.
Maybe she hit her head.
And then look what happened, at the Trade Center when she left that day.
We've talked. Well, first of all, she came out and explained what happened there, medically speaking. But I thought that we kind of had a pact that we didn't go after people for mental issues or for physical health problems.
But I mentioned mental issues.
No, I'm talking about. No, I don't call Trump mentally ill. A lot of other people do, but I've made it a point. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I think he does a lot of kooky things, but I'm not willing to say that the guy.
I think Hillary does a lot more kooky things. Hillary's actually insulted more Americans than Trump has.
I don't think that's true at all.
She's insulted half the country.
Half the country, more than half the country.
More than half the country.
No, I think if you.
Do you think Jesse's an irredeemable deplorable? Look him in the eye.
Jesse seems quite fine. No, I don't think that. I don't think that people are. I think Claire McCaskill.
You want me to talk about Farrakhan?
I could never convince you to vote for someone you wouldn't want to vote for.
Absolutely
because you're
not.
a very strong, upstanding woman.
Yeah,
so why does Hillary think women
things.
Are controlled by men? I mean, that's not very feminist, is it?
No, it's not at all, and it's completely out of step with what she's been advocating for her entire career. That's why it didn't make sense, and it cost people. Claire McCaskill tweeted about it.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think it maybe has something to do with she can't accept she got crushed in the election by Donald Trump?
It was like pretty many, but
it's like pretty many?
Yeah, I mean, crushed.
I mean, she lost Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. I mean, that's pretty big.
She did do well. I mean, if you look at what could have happened, I guess it could have been worse. When you say
could have been worse.
It could have been
worse. She could have lost Hawaii too.
California.
Guys.
She could have lost New York.
You guys are having a great time.
Yeah, we really are.
to Farrakhan.
Let's get back to Farrakhan.
Or so, let's talk about Connor Lamb.
Lamb the sham. You know, that's funny. That's right. That's a district that voted for Trump by 20 points.
Right.
And then it went Democrat. So I guess all the husbands in that district convinced their wives to vote Democrat, right?
No, that's not what happened. It's because we were running a good
last-minute comeback by Waters.
Racist last year, and now they're not racist.
By the way,
I
for
don't
the
think those
Democrats.